Okay, what's up everybody, how's it going? It's Berk, aka Dansway here, and welcome to another Final Fantasy X live stream. Let me know if you can all see and hear me, first of all. For some reason this time around I've had a couple of little weird things going on with the software that I use to stream recently, so I just want to make sure it's working. Okay. Dan says it's working, that's a good sign. Okay, cool, that's good. Yeah, I was getting some weird message from YouTube about some setting not being correct or something like that, but as long as it's working, we'll assume that it's going to keep working until it stops. So if anything weird starts happening, let me know. But yeah, let me start to talk about what to expect from today's session. What we're gonna do, hold on, let me just quickly tweak something. Should be a little better. If there's one thing that I've noticed, it's that in the HD remaster especially, not sure if this is the same in the original, but the theme, like the music for Penance, is way louder than like some of the other stuff. And so it can sometimes be annoying. Like if you set your audio up for the Penance background music, sometimes it can be a bit too quiet for some of the other stuff. Okay. So I think it should be alright for now. Okay, so here's what's going to happen today. We are going to potentially have pretty much like one of the last ever Final Fantasy X No Sphere Grid Dark Aeon Penance-y kind of sessions, because obviously this has been something that I spent countless hours on in the past. It kind of, basically for me, the journey ended once I defeated No Sphere Grid Dark Anima back in 2011. But in the last couple of months or so, I made a little bit of a return, because we now just have a lot of tools that we didn't have before to just have some fun with some of these fights that were previously impossible, and we could experiment with them and test them out and grab a win or two that we couldn't in the past. So that's generally what I wanted to do, and the main kind of enemies that I wanted to return to were No Sphere Grid Shinryu, No Sphere Grid Nemesis, and No Sphere Grid Penance. So we've generally been making our way through those, and it began with No Sphere Grid Shinryu, which was a fight that was basically one in which I kind of confirmed that it was pretty much impossible to win. But then, like, we basically started to pull some strings and start to use some cheats and some hacks and stuff to try and set up what a kind of perfect battle could look like. And we created something like a proof of concept slash theoretical win against No Sphere Grid Shinryu. And in doing so, we were able to unlock the fight against No Sphere Grid Nemesis. Then we did that, and No Sphere Grid Nemesis in that sense was pretty much a legit win. Like, there was nothing. Obviously, the stats that I had and all of that stuff, I didn't literally manually grind for them for a huge amount of time. But in terms of how the battle played out, we didn't really do any funny business. It was really just sort of relying on the RNG going our way with the Maga Sisters. And once we got that to happen, it took like a good 10 hours or so of attempts. But once we did, we got it done, and I managed to beat No Sphere Grid Nemesis for the first time, which was really cool and a lot of fun. So that was like the next one, and once that was complete, we started to experiment around with something that Corethian from the community, modder extraordinaire, had cooked up, in which you can manually control the Maga Sisters. Because as a No Sphere Grid player, one of the things I was always most curious about with some of the toughest and most RNG reliant battles was just how important is it to get the Maga Sisters to do what you want. We obviously know it's important, but how make or break is it? And so what I wanted to do was experiment a little bit with full manual control of the Maga Sisters, where I can make them kind of do whatever I want on every single turn. And it was definitely quite interesting, because Nemesis became like a complete total like pushover. You can kind of win every single time against Nemesis, because Nemesis has a very like kind of predefined attack pattern for the most part. And when he does sort of deviate, it's basically he throws in like an extra physical attack that he normally wouldn't. And so that doesn't change the situation too much. And that means if you have manual control, you basically remove the RNG element completely. and you can beat Nose Figured Nemesis with like 100% success rate, pretty much. And so that was kind of fun to see in action, just how easy it becomes. And then I made what for me was a natural kind of transition to go back to Nose Figured Dark Anima, because that's the fight where I really wondered, if you had full manual control of the Magus Sisters, how easy or still difficult is it to defeat Nose Figured Dark Anima? And so in the last session, that's kind of where we ended up. And I gave it a few tries. And in general, I think even my first try, I got like over 3 million, 3.5 million, something like that. And I think what that session kind of proved was that, of course, it is 100% like orders of magnitude easier, I think, to do. But it will still, I think, require a little bit of work to do. So let's see what Creeping says. A guy called Silo Cybins. Yeah, I know him from the community, who's attempting Nose Dark Anima. Said he won the fight in 5 attempts with full Magus control. Fair play. I mean, it does seem very doable. I will admit that when I was like doing that session, I think it was just a lot of like looking at the chat and not being fully locked in and focused and that kind of thing. But given that I got over 3 million on the first try, you could definitely tell it was very much doable. So I'll believe them. I mean, if they say they can do it in 5 attempts, I think it's definitely doable. But we basically still got to see that Dark Anima's... Silo himself is here. 10 attempts. Yeah, that seems a little more realistic. I think I maybe had like 3 or 4 legit ones, something like that. Yeah, the chat is definitely distracting and not the easiest to do challenge runs with, where you need to keep a tight eye on everything that's going up. But yeah, it's I think that goes to show, again, like how much of the fight is still RNG, of course. And I think 10 attempts still, like that's fast. I'm not sure if everyone gave it a go. Like most people attempting, they could get it done in 10. Maybe you also happen to have a very good like Dark Anima RNG run within those first 10. So I'm not sure. Like it's definitely pretty quick. I'm surprised, honestly, with 10. But the point stands. In general, with full manual control, your chances of winning this fight improve dramatically. But with still, of course, a decently large RNG element when it comes to Dark Anima. And so with that, basically, I was able to revisit a lot of the bosses that I wanted to clear and experiment with Nose Figured. And of course, that leaves us one final boss to have a look at. And this is, of course, going to be Penance. So let's head over to the airship and start to talk about what's going to happen today in terms of fighting Penance. Let's do that. Okay, here we are. Now, when it comes to Penance, obviously once I defeated Nose Figured Dark Anima back in the day, the natural question is, as a result of doing so, you unlock Penance. And it was always a question of, well, is Penance possible in any kind of way? And for me, the answer pretty quickly was no. I don't think it is. And it still remains the case today. And the best way to explain it, I think, because you guys have generally been watching along with what we've been doing with these, imagine Penance as being kind of Shinryu on steroids in terms of how impossible it is, or how small the possibility is, I guess. It's just one of those really annoying things where if you want to be technically correct, Nose Figured Penance is possible, but it's just so incredibly unlikely that for all intents and purposes, it is impossible. So it's in that kind of weird realm where it can be possible, but in any real sense, it is not. And in this session, we're going to kind of experiment around and find out why, try out a few different things, just mess around with the fight, try a few different ideas, try it like completely vanilla, like no hacks, no messing around, nothing silly. Just see what happens when you try to do that. Then we'll throw in a bit of like manual Magus Sisters control, see what that does. Does that turn things in our favor a little bit more? Does it give us a bit of a possibility? Then, once we kind of go through all of that stuff, what I'm hoping to do for basically the final part of the session is to once again implement a little something that Coryphean worked on in the past. So this is something that we've generally talked about, and I've mentioned this video a few times. But if you haven't seen it before or heard about it before, Coryphean created something called basically like the perfect Penance Perfect RNG mod. And as the name might suggest, it basically forces Penance to behave in pretty much one of the only ways it can behave in order for you to win the fight. And so what he has on his channel is like a theoretical example of how No Sphere Grid Penance can be defeated, but as he says himself, statistically completely, utterly impossible. You'd need a whole lot of zeros after the decimal point, I think, to start to get anywhere near how possible it would be if you tried to do it yourself. But in that sense, I find those kind of things fun, because even if it's not possible, it's still fun to have a look at, like how would it even work. And so I think that's generally going to be the flow of today's session. So I think that's where we'll try to take things. I say Shinryu is more impossible simply because no... Yeah, okay, that's true. That is true. But I think anyone doing No Sphere Grid Dark Aeons, I think that the challenge was always No Sphere Grid, no Zanmato Dark Aeons. And so, yeah, like the fact that you could obviously Zanmato Penance was always true, but then by that logic you could always Zanmato the rest of the Dark Aeons anyway, which, other than Dark Yojimbo a little bit, like obviously a bit of an RNG thing, it was never like that much of a challenge anyway. So, yeah, but no Sphere Grid, no Zanmato, of course, that's what we're specifically referring to here. But let's kick it off with the first attempt here, and let's just see what No Sphere Grid Penance kind of starts to look like if you're doing a bit of a normal run.
You're counting on me, kid.
Yeah, exactly, it's implied. But there's always going to be those people saying, hey, why don't you just Zanmato it?
Here we go.
I mean, that is what I ended up doing, because I knew I was never going to defeat No Sphere Grid Penance, and at least I could say that, like, it's still the most complete version of it, where I managed to beat it, like, all of the Dark Aeons legitimately, and then had to use Zanmato for Penance. That's still the closest that anyone had ever gotten at that point, so I thought I'll take that. So this is where the game starts to get really loud again. Let me just weirdly loud for this bit. From what I understand from, I assume, Penance background lore, it's supposed to be the current Sin incarnation, aka Eject, as a final summon. Not sure about that one. Hey Real, welcome to the stream. And yes, welcome indeed, Penance. Hope you enjoy kicking our ass in this session. So, where to begin? Let's swap in Riku. Let's get a Hyper Mighty G on there, because we are going to need to summon, of course. Hey Leonardo, welcome to the stream. Good to see you. How much skillful you should be to get to the battle against Penance? Honestly, I think, like, in terms of pure, like, what I would call skill, I don't think, like, No Sphere Grid Dark Aeons it's not a challenge that requires that much skill. I think it's just an incredible amount of patience and preparation, and then increasing amounts of RNG, I would say. Like, I think there's far more skillfully demanding challenges in Final Fantasy X. I wouldn't say No Sphere Grid Dark Aeons is one of them personally. Like, you can get the game to do a lot of the work for you with just, like, the right equipment and that kind of thing. So, okay, let's begin. Obviously, the reason we're going to need to summon here is because the main move that is used at this stage is going to be Obliteration. And as you might assume, Obliteration is going to destroy your entire party. And it's so fast that there's absolutely no way you're going to try to sort of, you know, Hyper Mighty G and then like, try to take another one, anything like that. It just doesn't work. So I think whatever you're doing, you are going to need to rely on a summon to get you through the first phase. Like, that much of it is absolutely guaranteed. So, in terms of summons here, you kind of have two choices. Either you go for an elemental summon, that the advantage of which it can heal itself very quickly compared to something like Valifor. So if you summon like Valifor, for example, and you need to heal, you're going to have to rely on something like Double Cast Drain, which is not going to work very well because this guy's magic defense is incredibly high. So I think you get back about 10,000 if you do a double cast, so like 5 to 6,000 each time. So that's not really going to help you too much. It's not the best. And so you're going to struggle a little bit when it comes to that stuff. Or you can summon an Aeon like Ifrit, and this guy, he has the lowest magic defense, like naturally. So if you're doing like a proper no sphere grid kind of Dark Aeons thing, you get much more control over how you improve their stats over their base values, and so you would basically leave Ifrit's magic defense at base, and when you do that, he can heal himself for about 70,000 if he has maximum magic and minimum magic defense possible for him. So I think that's always a good choice. And then, of course, you have these guys. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I'm just going to show you what happens if you try to summon one Aeon. So expect a lot of resets and a lot of messing around here. We're just testing. And I'm just showing off kind of different scenarios and what happens. And then we'll kind of start to dig a bit deeper and see what we can actually do. Okay. Right. So, let's try hasting ourselves a bit. We also have an additional problem here when it comes to the Aeons. Now, a lot of us, when we fight Penance, we're used to using the characters, and we're used to having very beefy characters who can just hit Penance for maximum damage. But, as you can see here from the Untitled Project X mod that I have activated, which has permanent scan, Penance has Protect. And as a result, Aeons, that they don't have the same kind of ignoring defense, like bypassing capabilities that your celestial weapons have. And so if you just try to do like a normal attack, for example, with Ifrit, you are not going to do a lot of damage. So let's see what that looks like. Yeah, 21,210. It was a critical hit, but that's literally all we can do. And we have 12 million HP to take out. So that's already a very bad start. There is something we can do, though. I'll show that in a sec. But for now, let's just shield and see what happens when Penance gets its first turns. Is there a mod that can lock you into No Sphere Grid? I don't know. Not that I know of. I mean, No Sphere Grid, you just kind of... You don't need to be locked into it. It's your choice to use the Sphere Grid in the first place, so you just choose to not use it. Hi Miller, welcome to the stream. Good to see you. Unless you mean something else when you say lock you into No Sphere Grid. You can see the power of shield there. A nice, only like 5,700 damage. That's pretty nice. Calamity comes in, and then comes one of the worst moves here. Terra Graviton. Now with shield, thankfully we reduced the damage significantly there. But basically on any given set of 3 turns, you can get wiped out pretty much unless you are shielding or you have like really significant preparations. Now, the problem is you can also have your positive buffs removed. So right now we have haste, but let's say we wanted to try and protect ourselves against Terra Graviton. So let's just do a bit of this stuff. Try and get some buffs on there. Throw on Protect as well. Locking means No Sphere would make you feel more clean. Or like, yeah, I mean, if that's the reason you want it, then I don't think I've seen one. And if Coryphean says he's not aware of one, then it probably doesn't exist. Okay. So we survived another set of turns, but already, of course, we have to heal in a massive way here. And because we shelled ourselves to protect from Terra Graviton, healing becomes a little worse, but we can double cast to make up for that. So let's see how long Ifrit can even hang in there here. So 36,000 healed there, that's nice. The right arm is playing very nicely here, lots of Calamity. And they're the 2 like perfect moves there, that was really nice. And I think you can start to see what things start to look like if you want to actually have a chance of defeating Penance. You saw in those last 2 turns there, this arm used Sloga, and this arm used Calamity, and for all intents and purposes, that kind of does nothing. It basically wastes their turns against us. Yes, Ifrit gets cursed, but it's not particularly important. So that was like pretty much the perfect scenario happening there. So here, I have a chance to attack once again. We've done a massive 21,000 damage at this point, but we can do a little better by using Meteor Strike. This one is a little bit slower than your normal attack command, so you can see him slide down the CTB as a result, but it's not a massive penalty, and the additional benefit is that it will ignore the protect that Penance has on it, so you'll see the damage shoot up a little bit here. There you go, 47, so definitely looks a lot better this time. In comes Obliteration, so you can start to now potentially try to like cheer 5 times, that kind of stuff, reduce the damage from this even further, but we'll see. So Calamity again. There comes another Terra Graviton. So on any given turn, like you could take like, I would say like 50 to 60k damage. So this is always like danger zone. Whenever you get this happening, you have to heal. But if we're doing pretty well, mostly because the arms have been relatively kind so far. I'm pretty sure nothing can remove cheer unless you die. I think cheer will stay. Like even if you get, say, like petrified and then petrification's gone, cheer is always present unless you die, get revived. Thank you for the 5 gifted memberships, James. Appreciate that. So we're stuck in a bit of a rut here because basically, again, because it's 3-on-1 here, we're always in this situation where we're often going to need to heal in between turns to make sure we stay alive. So this is not a good situation here. But you might be thinking, what if we do, let's say, think. So yeah, let's say you want to do something like heal, but then you want to try and damage Penance with your magic. Let's see how much that does. Hey Jit Geek, thank you very much. We are not going to need luck in this session, basically. The ultimate goal is to showcase a bit of Corypheon's perfect RNG mod, which will quite literally remove the luck element, so we'll see how it goes. But you saw the amount of damage that Flare did there. Definitely not great. And a massive 93,000 got healed there. And so now we find ourselves in deep shit, because Penance is literally already back up to maximum HP before we even got a turn here. So we couldn't do anything. Penance now has regen, which we're going to need to dispel to have any chance of doing enough damage. But we also need to heal, because we're down to 34,000, so as you can see, like, there's just no way that you can really claw any damage here under these circumstances. So let's just... we'll keep Ifrit in the fight as long as he can. But yeah, only 15,000 damage from Flare, unfortunately. There you go, 15,000, and another Terra Graviton comes in. Yeah, so now we're in, like, we have to get that Dispel off at some point. Let's just do it now and hope we get lucky. We don't get hit with the Terra Graviton. Okay. Curious about how well the fully controlled Megasys will do. I assume you can dispel the regen. Yeah, and then I was just about to say it, but Corypheon stepped in. The Mega Sisters have no means to dispel. So that's where I was going to kind of move along next. That's a bit of a spoiler alert for what's to come. Yeah. So Ifrit is dead. You can see like a single Aeon here just doesn't seem to stand any kind of chance. And we come back in. And... yeah. Look at the CTB. Nasty. So, yeah, as you might imagine, you're not coming back from this. But let's just see it play out anyway. 4 damage. Well, hey, that could have been worse. Look at these turns. They actually survived the arms turns. That's brilliant. Yeah, that is true. If you're going to give this like a serious shot, you will need to curse proof. Because she will get hit by Calamity, and Calamity is a big problem. There we go. That is what attempt number 1 looked like. That was like a pure kind of vanilla, like that's how it would look if you were doing a very real nose-figured run. Okay, what next? If we just reload like this, let's just do that. Yeah, 4 damage. Thank you, Karifian. That was great. It was a great job. And yes, indeed, don't forget to arrow spark that life. So next up, I think where you would go from here is you would say, hey, I need to... The singular Aeon just can't keep up. We're probably going to need Mega Sisters to give us a chance here. Was it ever explained what Penance really is? I don't think so. But given like when the Dark Aeons start to appear in the story, basically as soon as you start to be branded as like heretics and start going against Yevon, then the Dark Aeons start appearing. So you have to assume these are Penance is just another weapon that Yevon has at his disposal for such situations. But obviously given the fact that it didn't exist in the first release of the game and that kind of thing, I'm not sure how much of it was just kind of bonus content added later on. How much of it like was Penance already designed to be in the game from the like closer to the start? That side of it, I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard like an interview or something where like Kitase or like some of the senior kind of design members of the team have actually talked about Penance in terms of how they came up with it. And I feel like that's the type of thing that doesn't really get asked enough. It's always about, you know, the story, the characters, the world, and all of that kind of stuff, which is understandable, but I do sometimes wonder a bit more about like the super bosses and the mechanics and that kind of stuff. Maybe we need to interview like the battle director of Final Fantasy X and ask him about Penance. I don't know. Won't Aerospark dispel the light? No, it will like and dispel the dislikes. That's what it'll do. Okay, let's... I'm actually kind of curious to see their overdrive as well. Do you guys remember when you got your first game over in this game? That's a good question. I really don't know. Probably, if I had to guess, I would say probably Sinspawn Guri as well. I think that's a big one for like someone. It's like if you've never played Final Fantasy before and 10's your first game, and you don't have much JRPG experience and that kind of thing, then Sinspawn Guri is tough, man. Like depending how you've been playing, and how quickly you're getting used to things, like that guy's rough. Like it's a big spike. Like Chocobo Eater, you can lose the fight, and you won't die. I'm pretty sure I got pushed off by Chocobo Eater the first time I ever fought it, but you're still alive. But Sinspawn Guri, I'm pretty sure it must have killed me the first time. I definitely wasn't ready for that. Okay, let's combine some powers at the end of it first, but let's just see here. Start with some of this. Now, obviously, one big advantage of the sisters is that they can use auto life. But will it be enough? I think you already have a big clue from the previous attempt, but let's just see how long they can stay in the fight. And by the time they're dismissed, will they have actually done some positive damage or not? Yeah, pushing Earth Eater off the cliff is tough. Like, that just doesn't happen. Now, another big problem when it comes to this fight, and why the manual control Megasis is going to be already a pretty nice step up, is because when you are trying to do damage, let's say you want to do a Passado, your damage is going to be eaten up by the arms. You want to attack the main body, but you have no control over who the sisters are going to attack here. So in comes Pasado. It was the main body, but look at that damage. Really terrible damage. We're so used to Pasado absolutely kicking ass, like Nemesis taking a total of like 450,000 damage from Pasado. But Penance is a whole different beast. Whole different beast. So that doesn't look good. Alright, see you later, Mike. Thanks for dropping in. The first game over I can remember was getting ambushed on Meehan Road from the bats. Getting Orin and someone else. Yeah, okay. That's definitely a very legitimate way to get a game over. Like, that's of course an RNG thing. If you're unlucky, you get an ambush. And those confusions hit, even though like they're not super high percentage, then you're going to be in big trouble. And speaking of big trouble, there comes that Mighty Guard. And Penance just recovers a casual 140,000. And we're basically already kind of screwed here. So, yeah, I wanted to at least maybe get lucky and have a little bit of a run where it spent like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 turns not using like the Hyper Mighty Guard. But now we are in trouble. Now, before we get Calamity, let's just use this. Let's see the damage here. Now, that's decent damage. Honestly, that's not bad. For an overdrive, I guess. So I think it was like 140k or so back to Penance. And the arms did take a pretty significant chunk. Ouch. Those slaps hurt a lot too. Another 140,000, so it regained all of the damage that we did and then some, and we didn't have also life on Cindy. And yeah, we're getting absolutely destroyed here. So the lack of a dispel for the Maguses basically makes them a no-go in this fight. You can't use them. You simply have to be able to dispel the regen. It's way too powerful. It's impossible to work with. Rough start. Yeah, even the Mighty Razia, only 26,000 damage. It does about 60 odd to Dark Anima. Yeah, even Mindy's like, she's not interested, she's just taking a break. It's pretty rare for her to take a break. Good God. So yeah. A living, breathing, statistical impossibility. Absolutely no chance. That Zamato is looking pretty good right about now. Penance was basically made for the defense 0 quality of the celestial weapons. Honestly, I would say so. I think if I was a developer too, I would have to assume that most people fighting Penance would have the celestial weapons with their main attackers. And so I think it really was designed with that in mind. Poor Mindy, 20,000. Is it really breathing though? Who knows? Maybe there's like a little evil Hypello inside there in some kind of control room controlling Penance. We will never know. Dismissing and resummoning a different Aeon to dispel wouldn't be viable, would it? To which Coryphean says you will never get a turn to summon, which of course is correct. So if you look at the turn order here, it's always going to be the case that the next turn is going to just come in too quickly. I mean, it's Coryphean, it's impossible, I would say, to resummon, right? Maybe, well, at least in obliteration mode. If you make it to immolation, then could be different, but in obliteration phase, you can't resummon. Yeah, it's just where, like, the second your Aeon dies, it's game over. So let's do another 4 damage. Oh, only 2 this time. Okay, nice. So with random variation, you can go as low as 2 natural damage with Waka. So yeah, there we go. That is kind of level 2 of our attempts. The 4 was a crit. I did not notice. Oh my god. I even got a critical. That's funny. Yeah, thankfully Penance only has 10 luck. I think that's a stat that kind of goes a little bit unnoticed. Has a very low luck stat, thankfully. But yeah, despite being as low as 10, obviously getting crit is still pretty unlikely. Okay, so there's level 2. And the question is, where do we go from here? Well, I think next what I will do is basically from here I can't activate the Control Maga Sisters manually mod, so I need to shut the game for a second, activate that mod, and then fire the game up again, so the screen will go blank for a second. And then we'll give it a go if you can manually control them. So I think you already know where it's going to go, but I think it's fun to just give it a try anyway, and then we'll start to really see what needs to happen to get anything resembling progress in this fight. So close the game. Let's fire up the manual mod. Let's hope this works. I always get nervous whenever I have to like shut the game and kind of fire it up again, that something's going to break the stream. Let's hope it worked. Ah, yes, indeed, the full team brigade. They're always there. I wouldn't say they've arrived. They kind of never leave. But yeah, it's more possible that I do a Final Fantasy 14 playthrough than me beating Penance legitimately. That much I can say. I think at this stage it's more of a when would I do it and how would I do it for Final Fantasy 14. Because I feel like it goes too kind of against, I think, like the core idea of the game to try and solo it. I do know at this stage, like, increasingly that yes, you can basically play it like it's a single player game, but I still think it's really, really not kind of designed to be that way. I think in an ideal world, I'd love to play with, like, some friends. Well, so for example, I know Erica plays, I know Josh plays, so maybe I could get, like, a couple of my mods together, like 2 or 3 mods, and we kind of play through together, and I think that would be fun. I think that's how I'd enjoy it the most. I feel like if I try to completely solo it, I feel like I might not enjoy it as much as if I were to play through it with a few good friends that I know I can kind of just get along with and enjoy the experience with. So if I could find a way to logistically kind of set that up and record it and how would I go about all of that stuff, then maybe, yeah, there's a chance I could do it. But for now, at least, I've just got so much other stuff on my plate and that I'm interested in that it's definitely still not going to be anytime soon. There's still Final Fantasy Tactics to come, for example. And there might be 1 or 2 other kind of spin-off-y different Final Fantasy titles I want to try. But 14 definitely can happen in the future. But for now, at least, it's still not like anywhere near the top of the pile in terms of what I'm going to do. But I would definitely like to try it someday. And potentially, hopefully, kind of do it with friends and find a way to upload it. Solo is possible. Best to have like 4 players, but you still have to get some randos for trials then. Yeah, I think like if I could have like a team of 4 that I could consistently play and record with, like let's say we kind of organize a weekly session that we all stay committed to, and we all kind of make sure we're there every week, because as you guys know, most of us are, I think, at roughly similar age. It's just very hard to get people together to consistently do something for say like 2, 3, 4 hours, like once a week. It's just hard to get that kind of commitment going, like long term. because you guys all know how much content there is in 14. It would take such a long time for me to catch up with it that kind of relying on, say, for example, Erica and Indubitable Wordsmith, my 2 mods, to kind of basically be there all the time to go with it, go through the game with me. I think it's a bit of a big ask. So that's what I mean. Like, that's the kind of aspect that I'm not so sure about. Final Fantasy 11, that one's just like 14. Imagine everything I've said about 14. Final Fantasy 11, I've just generally always been less interested in anyways. It's just much older. I've never heard about it as much as 14 anyway. I think 14, in terms of what it's been able to do with its story, and that kind of stuff, I just feel like it's definitely, if I am ever going to play a multiplayer Final Fantasy, I think it should be 14. I think 11 definitely has its cult kind of following, and there's still a lot of people passionate about it. But I think for me and what I'd like to try and what I'd like to do, I think 11's just kind of a bit too far away. And I don't like 14, as I say, I'd love to do it someday. It's like, give it a go. But 11, I don't even want to kind of put that out there because it just feels a bit kind of too much. I can't see myself ever playing 11, being honest. Okay, so let's focus back in for another attempt, which we are going to fail very rapidly, but let's go. Yeah, well, I think 11 being forgotten is kind of the point in some ways. I think it's a bit more forgotten for a reason. Every Final Fantasy in the series, every single one has like its fans and its die-hard fans, its hardcore fans, all of those things. But I think 11 is just, it's a step too far for me. I just can't see myself doing it. So where do we begin? Let's go. Now, one good thing here is we can, of course, kind of hone in our attacks on Penance's main body. We don't have to deal with the arms. So I think right now, because we already have decent HP, let's just go. 20,000. Yeah, I think that's their best chance to get the 14 crowd who've maybe already kind of caught up and they're waiting for the next expansion to then try maybe 11. But in terms of time commitment, is there anyone that's playing 11 and 14 at the same time? Like, do people really have time to play both of those and try to play single player games they're interested in? Like, surely the time drain is just, it's too much for that. Like, you got to be hyper dedicated to do that. Caribbean straight up. I'm not going to play 14 either. Damn it. Yeah, I was going to try and get like the modding dream team together. That would be hilarious. Me, Caribbean, and P Birdman going to play through. It's hard. 14 is a giant time drain, especially if you start raiding. Perfectly fine to play 14 for story and story alone. Granted, at this point, it is a big one. Yeah, that's it. It just gets increasingly daunting as well. They've just done a Final Fantasy 11 raid in 14. Yeah, unfortunately, there is no way to dispel the sisters. But I just want to know, if you get fully set up, like, how much damage can you even do in, like, basically a round? It still wouldn't offset. If they're all in haste, maybe. Yeah, that slap just... That slap slaps. I think I should auto life here. Unfortunately, Posado's like barely better than the normal attack here. It's just like... Or is it even? Is it even better? Normal attack did like 20k. Posado's like 2.5k times 15. It is better, but not by a huge amount, honestly. Is there ever a scenario where Posado's not better? Probably not. Hey Tanya, welcome to stream. Good to see you. So the problem is, basically, by the time we get a few buffs on, we're basically going to die. And we still have the same kind of healing problem that I mentioned earlier. Like, the sisters are just not very good at healing themselves. Stuff like Full Life is great, but because we kind of need the sisters to be in haste to try and keep up with these guys, it's, again, it's just not going to work. We don't have enough in terms of... moves and healing and all that kind of stuff. And there comes the Mighty Guard. Yeah, so that's going to be really bad. So, I mean, by the time you try to get 3 hastes and 3 shells, you're already just getting absolutely destroyed here, as you can see. So, yeah. Hey, Will, welcome to the stream. Good to see you. Yeah, the time difference thing has definitely helped a little bit. The US has had their clocks go forward, and the UK at least is still the same for another, another, I think, 2 weeks, 2 and a bit weeks. Hey Kane, good to see you. And so yes, we find ourselves back in this familiar scenario once again with Waka doing 2 damage and Penance wiping us out. Thank you for the 5 gifted memberships, Dan. Appreciate that as always. You should try with Anima too. Okay, sure. By all means, try. It doesn't matter what you try here. The outcome will always be the same. But we'll try it anyway. That's what we're here for. This will be like the kind of... We'll leave no stone unturned. And we'll just mess around with everything. At least once we're done, we know that we're truly done here. Masters Mod weekly videos, highlight of the week. Loving the playthrough. Appreciate that. Yeah, Final Fantasy X Fridays rock. And it's good that we still have quite a lot of content to go from the mod. I think once that's done, I need to find like what the next Final Fantasy X Fridays need to be. Thank you, Lindblom. Glad you enjoyed the tier list. Things will definitely start to get a lot more interesting once I start to put this perfect RNG mod in. Then you'll start to see, like, suddenly you have so much more breathing room and so many more options. But for now, at least, we're basically kind of doing the Penance Extreme Challenge. Because we can defeat the arms, but it's too much work. I wonder if there's some kind of strat where you could manually control the Mega Sisters and defeat the right arm, maybe, at least to stop the Mighty Guard. Could they potentially ever be quick enough? Let's mess around with that, actually. I'm kind of curious. I just want to give that, like, one try. Who's the best written character in the audio novel? For me, it has to be the Blitzball. I don't think there are any well-written characters in the audio novel. Looking forward to the battle theme list. Yeah, definitely a good one. Yeah, definitely always like send me any ideas you have for the tier list. If I hear anything particularly good, I'll jot it down. I've kind of created like a bit of a master list of ideas, and I'll kind of look at those and try to pick ones from those that I think could work well. Like, for example, the soundtracks one, I feel like it needs to be more of a ranking video than a tier list. Because they're all just so bloody good. Like, for me, there is no basically, like, B tier or lower Final Fantasy soundtrack. They're all excellent. Like, even Final Fantasy 2, which I've generally liked the least, the soundtrack was really good. It had some great tracks in there. I remember saying, like, that it feels like the team failed, but Uematsu was, like, the only one that deserved to still be given praise for that game. So, like, I don't know if a tier list is as fun if you're only using, like, S tier, A+, and A and nothing else. So, I'm kind of also looking for ones that I do feel like have a bit of variation in them, where I could, like, have some, like, F tier, D tier, that kind of thing. So, I think, like, soundtracks would probably have to be a bit more of a ranking type one. Hey Armand, welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining us. Went back to find your video on Butterfly Catcher for Kimari. Yeah, like ever since I discovered the map for Butterfly Catcher, it helped so much. Let me get going a little bit with this run, and then we'll go back to a little bit more Q&A. Because it is like that kind of session. We don't have like a super kind of strict target in place here. It's quite open-ended. I'm happy to kind of just sit and chat and just answer questions and stuff too. But I do want to at least show some stuff happening. So for this one, I want to mainly kind of focus on seeing if I can stop Mighty Guard from happening. So let's see how much Pasado does on the arms. This one I don't even remember. That's not so bad. Alright, we need to get haste like on ASAP here. And see if we get some RNG to kind of survive long enough. Like, that damage is nice. So I think with this one I can take this arm out at least. So the idea here is to try and remove the Hyper Mighty Guard threat if we can. We of course still have Terra Graviton to permanently deal with, but we're just experimenting for now. Ah, she got dispelled. The haste was dispelled there by the arm. Annoying. I feel like maybe Shell's honestly more important than... It's a shame that the same arm that does Terra Graviton is also the one that dispels. And yeah, Terra Graviton is the great equalizer of high HP. That is correct. I'm just gonna increase the chances of Cindy staying alive here. Yeah, Super Boss tier list is definitely a good shout. I mean, some games just kind of don't really have them. So we'll kind of just have to find which ones there are throughout the series. Obviously, we don't need to have one from every single game. So, ah, shit. If Terra Graviton comes in, we're already screwed again. So it needs a lot of like good RNG to even prep a little bit. To kind of try to have some shell on there and like haste and that kind of thing. And protect ourselves from Terra Graviton, but we just can't. So we got a bit lucky there. It's good. Yeah, it's just not enough because Obliteration is going to bring us to within range of being killed. So it's auto life. Hey Fritz, I haven't seen the latest stuff, but yes, I have generally heard about it. And it does look interesting for sure. And yes, this arm is already back. So without even really being able to make much progress on the body, the arm has returned. And once again, Terra Graviton is looming large. Top 10 NPCs, that's a good one. I bet Penance uses his arms to reach high cabinets he can't normally reach. Okay, another Sloga. We've definitely been a bit lucky here. Ooh, Moogle tier list. That's kind of a good one, you know. That is a good one. Yeah, this is all literally, all of this work is just to avoid Mighty Guard. So this is all like in place of just one Dispel move. You could just Dispel, but because you don't have it, you have to do all of this crap, basically. But you can see we're still kind of, really kind of getting nowhere. And we've been lucky. We haven't been Terra Graviton for 3 moves. Penance 70 gives best high fives. Yeah, so I couldn't get there in time. And the entire strat basically relies on you defeating that arm before it ever uses Hyper Mighty Guard, because it uses it one time and you're finished. So unfortunately, even trying to defeat the arms is just doesn't work. With full manual control, of course, still. Because Terra Graviton is just a lot of work, and it just takes so much time, because Sandy's the only one that can give us the buffs that we need. By the time Sandy gets haste on everyone, gets protect on everyone to reduce the obliteration damage, to reduce the slap move damage, gets shell on everyone to protect from Terra Graviton, it's so many turns that by that time you get completely destroyed. So unfortunately, it looks like another dead end here. Would you look into analyzing anyone's speedruns again? Not specifically. I think I kind of did everything I needed to do. I wanted to just investigate it, see how they did it. And I kind of got my answer. And so I have no intention of doing so. I think like one was enough. Maybe worth looking at like the Penance one, to kind of see what strats people have for like basically getting strong enough to defeat Penance as quickly as possible. Just a bit of a like stat maxing, kind of how do they minimize the time needed to grind. I'd like to kind of see that. But I think even like the quickest Penance runs, aren't they like 24 hours or something? To start from scratch all the way to defeating Penance without Zanmato? Or maybe something like that? Not sure. Hey Alicia, welcome to stream. Good to see you. Just say yes to the fan. You must be new here. This is my story. It'll go the way I want it. The Penance Zanmato run is 19 hours of real time, slightly less with load time removed. Okay, there you go. So 19 hours. I mean, that's incredibly impressive. I assume you mean no Zanmato. No, is that what they call it? What? Just call it no Zanmato, like NZ Zanmato. No. Oh, God's sake.